part of an organization, and how many of you like working freelance? So let's start with freelance. You're just working for yourself, looking for clients. And
Agencies, maybe?
Agencies
or
yeah.
Nocode studios.
Agencies as well.
There's
Okay.
a few. Oh, and the rest is their own.
And how many of you like are part of an existing company and you're like in the innovation team, for example? Like I think you are as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Perfect. That's perfect. So we got 2 more minutes of small talk. Where's everyone going to the gym?
Il y a quelqu'un à Salon Cambridge. Après, il faut que tu lui demandes.
Is there a last person that came in? We were waiting for you to start.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think there's more focus here.
Oh,
Okay, I think we can.
yeah, let's get started. Oh, thank you very much. Very nice. All right, so let's get started. I'll kick things off. And maybe you can help me introduce you as well. I'm Mario, work with Softr, product growth team. And again, Softr, very small team, so we pretty much do come in. There's some places here in the corridor if you want to sit down. There you go. I can even do this. Can I move this without breaking anything? There you go. If you like to sit on the floor, you can sit here. That's fine. All right. So I'll present from here. All right. So let's get started. I'm Mario. Work with Softr for ages like 9 months or so, and you're.
I'm Ibrahim. I'm the product team. Also been with SoftrIbrahim.
All right, good. So let's get started. So before we get started, I wanted to tell you that we have no slides. So this is really going to be a hands-on presentation. We just thought that maybe you've seen many slides. So I'll intro and tell you a little bit what Softr is. Softr is a no-code platform, as you can imagine. And then maybe some of you have the question, how are you different from all the other no-code platforms? What do you do? Right? What do you do that deserves my attention? So what our mission is to make application creation as simple as creating Lego, as simple as possible. Anyone that can create a document, a Word document, or a Google document can create an application. And they can do so in their first hour of software without seeing any videos or whatever. So as you're going to see, it's a really intuitive product. Now, what is Softr used for? Softr is used for, and who uses Softr? Companies that want to build their client portals or expose data that is private to them, and they want to expose it to external parties, their partners, their clients, etc., in a way that they control the security of it, but also the layout, something that they're proud of putting in front of customers. We do sit on top of Airtable, and we will, meaning that the data, if you're Airtable, how many Airtable users are here? Google Sheets users? All right, so more or less the entire audience. So you can just take one of the Airtable bases or a Google spreadsheet, we'll launch it in more or less 2-3 weeks, Google Sheets support, and create an application on top of it. And you don't have to share the secrets of your company because we'll handle security for you, and users and groups of users will only be able to see what you want them to see. So I mentioned client portals. There's also another category of tools that is Softr is widely used for. That's for internal tooling. Tools that maybe if you're an energy company, you want to create a tool for your team that's on the ground installing the systems in people's houses to record what they did not in their mobile and so on and so forth. So that's an example of an internal tool. Or an employee directory could be another internal tool. Or a project management tool like you'll see later. So yeah, this is Softr. Feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. We can make this a dialogue. I'll just go right in and show you Softr. So this is Softr Studio. We call it Softr Studio. This is where you build your apps. Let me create an app from scratch so you can actually see how the experience looks like. I'm going to create a blank application, but we do have a bunch of templates, and you can use all of the templates as you wish. The beauty of this is that you can start with a template, copy pieces of this template to another template, and you're not locked by the template you start with. You can just create an application and assemble it like Lego. That's again why we use the Lego analogy so much. So first thing that we ask you to do is connect to your Airtable data. And I have this Airtable here. It's a list of employees of my company. So I'm gonna just grab the API key and copy it into Softr. So you do this on the Airtable side. Copy the key. Come to Studio. We thought he was lying, but no, there's actually a person there. Thank you for coming. Sorry, I'm pulling your leg there. So you'll see that there's a lot of automation already happening. So based on your data and the typical type of application people like to build, we already have some pre-built things that you can have, like the home page or a list of data, or the details of one of the records, or forms, or whatever. This application that I'm going to build is really simple. So I'm just gonna disable majority of these things and click next. This lady's taking a picture. So what Softr is doing right now is pre-creating some of the pages that I've selected, and you'll see here the home page of the application. All of this is customizable. So I'll start by saying by changing the header. Welcome to the team. Right, I could also come in and change this image to something else, something that you have on your laptops or whatever part of the brand, or just use this lady here. But you can. The point being is all fully customizable to whatever you want it to be. So this is the first version of the application. It just has the home page. Now, one of the concepts that you need to learn about Softr is the page concept, right? The page is something that you offer your users. The other one is a block. So this is a block, a dynamic block. This dynamic block here allows you to display data in this visual way to your users. I lost the timer, so I'm having trouble with it. So I'm going to just go ahead and select the employee directory template. So at this point, what I'm doing is telling Softr what are you going to display in the actual page. So it's the employee directory template, and I wanted the employee directory. So this tab right there, right? So now
just to warn you, by the way, guys, you're about to see my joke. Because all those rows of data that you can just see in that table, watch what's about to happen.
So. Thank you. So now, I needed a little bit of drama and excitement in my presentation. So now I'm gonna just map out. So what do I want to see displayed here, 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 and here? So let's start with the image. So for the image, it's the photo column in Airtable. There you go. So you'll start to see the actual data coming into Softr. Internet is a bit slow, so apologies for that. For the heading, I want to use the name of the person. And the other one, I'm going to use the email address.
Let's just show them, Mario, again where these headers are coming from. So
Yeah, I'll go back. There. And then for the other, I'm going to use the department. Right. So as Ibrahim was saying, so you'll see name, email, and department. Let's take Tenzin, which is actually the wife of Obama. But so let's take Tenzin, and you'll see the data came from here. That's her name, that's her picture, and then there's the department, and so on and so forth. So all of this is being mapped to what you have in your table. Now, another thing I like to do in this thing is 3 seems to be not too much, so I'm going to say 6 per page. 6 people per page. And again, I'm showing you how to customize this. So what I'm going to do next is just publish the application. I'm going to name it Nocode S, Nocode Summit. And I'm going to publish the application. So right now, if you take your phones and go to nocodess.softr.app, you can actually play with the application. And I'm going to do it in the browser. So I'm going to just open it here. and the application should work in your browser. Now, how do you get to the actual page that I created? I forgot to add the link, so I'm going to add the link real quick, and you can continue to use the app. The app will work, and suddenly the problem will be fixed. So I'm going to just use
So
this
just again
button.
to stress here, you've just seen in the space of about 5 minutes, that data, those rows of data, there could be thousands and thousands of rows of data, have now been displayed in a super fancy, sexy way through these kind of app cards or like item cards.
So, thanks, Ibrahim. What I did now was just update the link. So I told Softr, please link this call to action to the actual list page. And there you go. Now, can I search, for example, for Tenzin? No, right? I didn't build it yet, but I'll build it, and it's going to take maybe 30 seconds or less. I'm going to go back to that page, to the list, and I'm going to say for this particular block in the features, I'm going to tell Softr what do we want to allow users to search for, and I'm going to say name. And then the tags at the top, right, and the ones at the right, we can also set them up to whatever you want. So I'm going to remove these ones because I don't want them. And at the top, I'm going to just pick the location. There it is. Are we on time, Brian?
Yeah.
Good. All right. So right now you see that we automatically fetch the options there from Airtable. I don't know why we have from New York, but maybe there's a space there I need to fix. But you have multiple regions and people will be able to search. You right now in your app, if you're playing with it, you won't be able to search, but from the moment I publish, the application will be available to all the users, like it takes just a couple of seconds. And right now, if I refresh the application, you'll be able to search. And it wasn't working, it should be working now.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I saw on the top right it says custom domain free. Like, can you actually put any domain you want, or how do you handle domains?
So that's a good question. So we do offer in the free edition of you can tie it to a custom domain. You buy the custom domain elsewhere, and you can just connect it. You use Namecheap or GoDaddy or whatever service you want, and you can just tie it. For the free version, we offer one connection. There's no limits for the other for how many apps and how many domains you can have if you grow a lot. Does he answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So this is it. Now, what I showed you is a very simple block. It's a list of people, but I want to make it a little bit more complex because I didn't add the block. It was here, and so you didn't have the opportunity to actually see it. So let me remove this one and add another block. And the block I want to add is a block that shows the actual org chart of the company, like a tree that you normally have in an employee directory. So let me add the block, and you'll see we have a bunch of blocks. And you can see them here and preview them here if you want. So these are the Lego blocks. You can just assemble them in any way. It will always work. And without no code. Only maybe 1% of our customers actually code something because you can, but the majority of them don't. So this is a dynamic block, and I'm just going to type org chart, and there it is. There's the org chart block. I'm going to edit it to the bottom, and same thing that we did before. You add a block, and then you pick where the data for that block is coming from. So it's again the same thing, employee directory. And now you do the mapping of the fields. So that's the third thing you need to know. And you go to features, and I'm going to say, okay, this is the manager. The name of the person is name in Airtable. The image on Airtable is called photo. And the department, I think it was department. There you go. So here's a nice little dynamic org chart that I will publish so you can actually play with it on your phone if you like. Call to action. Here's the list and the org chart that you can expand, zoom in, zoom out, make bigger, whatever makes sense for you in the context of your application. So Softr is relatively, and before I hand off to Ibrahim, Softr is relatively 2 years old, less than 2 years old. We have roughly 80,000 users that are already using Softr to build apps, and we keep adding new blocks. And those blocks come from you, people like you that started using and are submitting ideas. Our roadmap is public, submitting ideas of things that you need to be successful for your business. Yeah, would love to answer any questions you might have. I'm going to hand it off to Ibrahim so he can show you a little bit of the more powerful features. And but there's a question there before we move on.
Yeah, could you link the two blocks? Let's say like you just search for Tenzin, then the organization chart is focused on Tenzin, or
So for this particular blocks, that default behavior does not exist, but it would be possible with some advanced tweaking there.
We might be able to touch on it in the second segment.
All right.
Okay, perfect. So I think Mario has mostly shown us like what we can do or how we can get those blocks up and running, right? So we've pulled in some blocks, we've touched, we've added in that Airtable, and we can see that Airtable being displayed, in different formats, whether that be a list block, whether that be in the org chart. So we're getting this, we're showing you like the complete set of arrangements that you can have with all the different blocks that we offer for you to display that data that's sitting in Airtable. So that was like the main message there. What I'll do now is in the second part, is try to explain a more advanced use case. And again, I'm aware of what we have, who we have in the room. So I know that we have people from agencies, freelancers, and also businesses. So I think this use case that I'm about to explain does touch on all of those kind of areas. And we can try and make it a little bit more interactive as well, where I can allow you to also engage with it and see how it all happens in real time. So that's hopefully the flow. So what we have here is, again, so as I explained, this is a application that we've pre-created. And this application is a project management application. So what I want to do first, I want to explain how this can be used, or what context this can be used in. So this is a project management template. Let's imagine we're an organization of 10, and we're an internal team, and we have some projects that we want to manage internally between our different departments, that's it, right? And we want to share the status of those projects. Now, of course, we can go a step beyond. We might actually have an external team as well, and they also want to see what's going on with that information. And we can go ahead and share that information with them in exactly the same way. Let's use an internal team for this example, and in this case, that's going to be a project management template. Okay. So first, we'll start by signing in. There's different users that can sign into this application, and we can talk about who those users are and defining those users a little bit later. But what my point is that Rose, who is the manager of this organization, when she logs in, she's going to see different pieces of information from that same set of data. And that data is this one over here. Okay? So we'll take a look at that in real time. Meanwhile, Michelle, who's an employee, will log in and see different pieces of information because Michelle maybe shouldn't have the ability to add a new project, let's say, because that is restricted to just managers. Portuguese keyboard. Let's do that.
Portuguese keyboard. There you go.
Okay.
I'm happy to help. You need me to type for you.
Okay, at least the numbers are in the right order. Okay, so
Speaks near Arabic.
That's a good one. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this flow then. So this flow is you're a team of 10, and you've got a list of projects. Now we've just logged in as the manager. The manager can see all of the projects that are in their team, and if they really want to, they can go ahead and add a new project. Okay, when they add a new project here through the form block, and again, I know that it's a bit difficult right now. You might be hearing a whole bunch of new words. But if you come and play with Softr a little bit later and you have a chance to kind of work with some of the blocks, you'll understand, you'll know there's a form block, for example. And that form block looks a little bit like this. You can obviously edit it the way you want, but the form block allows you to add more information into the Airtable. And I'll show you how that works later. We'll kind of do a little bit of a role play situation. But anyway, let's just give you the overview of how this application looks so that we can try and engage with it. So you can go ahead and add a new project. When you add a new project, it gets listed into the list of projects. And now we can see all of the projects that are already listed. Okay, so Rose now knows that we need to do a rebranding. We have a rebranding project and it's due in this date, and this is the status, etc. If she clicks on it, she'll get more details. And this goes to your question. So you were asking how can we link those two pieces of information. That list that we saw with the projects, when you click inside that list, you can add a list details block. So I've just used another block name here. So we've talked about a form block, we've talked about a list block, now we're talking about a list details block. A list details block is where you can show more information related, that's a key word here, to that list block. And I say related to the keyword here because you're using linked records to relate two sets of tables or two different tables together. And that's what you've done here, which is the key piece. So also, to use Softr as powerfully as you want, the more, the better you are as an Airtable user, the more you can do with Softr. Perfect, so now let's add, well, we recognize this block, don't we? This is the same as that list block that we saw earlier. So we've also got a list block. This list block connects exactly to this list details. So actually, we're only seeing the individuals involved in this specific project. And that's that connection between the two sets of information. And then you've got the tasks, again, only the tasks that are affiliated to that project. And the discussion boards, and another. And you want, what block is this? Form block, perfect. So then you've got another form block, you add another form, you add task, and then if you add it in, you reload, you'll see that task over here.
Maybe just a quick question. As for the discussion board, is still data that are in Airtable?
Okay, yes, if you add a comment, it will go into Airtable. Yep. Perfect, so that's the general flow now. So now we're a team of 10, we've got these projects, we've got these tasks, we've got people affiliated with the project. As Mario touched on, it's very easy to build a little directory here as well. You've got all the people in your organization listed here, you can click on them. Again, we've got all this details block, which is connected to information. You can see the affiliated tasks or affiliated projects, and you can click on that and see that. So that's the general overview of this. Let me just see in terms of time if I can also show you how we can connect to this block. Perfect. So what we'll do now is any questions just on the flow of that, like what we're trying to achieve here. So it's clear, okay, project 2. So now what we'll do is we'll try and use another block that displays that information from there, just as another opportunity to see how how you can use Softr in its full functionality. So we'll go ahead and add a page, and let's add a Kanban block. So we might have, we might want to see the status of those projects. We might want to edit the status of our project. We're working in a Kanban format, so it's a bit easier to work with, right? So let's do that. So we add the page firstly. Once the page is added, we jump inside the page, and then we go ahead and add the block. And the block is intuitively called Kanban block. So you'll find the Kanban here. Now we're going to start setting it up. So in exactly the same way Mario did when he was showing you the other blocks, we're going to do exactly the same stuff. We're going to choose the Airtable base. In this case, the Airtable base is called Project Management Template. And the table is the tasks table. So this is where all of the smaller tasks are sitting. Let's go ahead and connect that. And we're going to set a conditional filter. I don't want everyone to see all of the tasks on the Kanban block. I want only the person to whom the tasks are affiliated to see those tasks. Because obviously I don't care about anyone else's tasks, and I shouldn't be able to move anyone else's tasks around the Kanban board, for example. And you can do this, what I'm about to show you, on all of those kind of blocks where you're showing lists. Okay, and Kanban is another one of those. Perfect, so let's add a conditional filter so that we're setting a filter that only allows, well, we can do different conditions. Let's do a condition so it's only the user that's logged in sees that information that's affiliated to them specifically, based on their email. So on Airtable, the emails column is called name from task leader, should probably be called email, but let me just show you where it's coming from. It's this one here, okay? So name from task leader, okay, the email column is here. And we only want to show these if it's the same as the logged in user's email. So we've just matched the email of the task, the email affiliated to the task, with the email of the person that's logged in. Cool? Okay, perfect. And then let's very quickly clean up a little bit. So let's remove these filters from the top. We don't need those at the top. And let's go ahead and attach a Well, we don't need an image because we don't have images for these tasks. So we can get rid of that one. Heading, that's this one up here. Let's go ahead and add a task. And then let's also add a description. And then we're done. And then let's get rid of this one. Perfect. So now we have our tasks, we have the description of those tasks, and when it's published, I can go to my Kanban view. I have cheated a little bit here because you also should add a link to from where you can access it, but it's already added. And now when I add Kanban, I can see the 3 tasks affiliated to me. I'm Rose, so if I check here, you'll see that Rose has these tasks, and you'll see them displayed here. So it's just her and her team. And this is, again, for those of you that want to be careful with security, etc., this is a very good way of ensuring that your data is secure from one party to another, from one user group to another.
Do you manage when there is corrupted data in the
Well, corrupted in what way? Like,
instead of having an image, you have text or a boolean when you expect.
but then you can't already do that in Airtable. So Airtable is already fixing for that problem.
Actually, I confused.
Okay.
But I mean, you. Okay.
Because Airtable like code, they already know which type it is. So you've already selected it, and then when we connect it, we know which type we're connected to.
For Google Sheets, it might happen, but Softr will be robust enough to tell you that there's a problem with your data, so you can check it out. You will never be able to publish sort of a broken application, not without warning that it is broken, right? So we'll help you with that. One question for you, Ibrahim. What happens when you change, I don't know if you had it in your demo, but what happens when you change one, in the running application, one task from one place to the other? What happens to the data on Airtable?
Perfect, good question. So let's take a look at that. So we've got build 5 pages in progress, right? Let's look at that here. Build 5 pages is here complete. Well, that's not supposed to be good. Why is that the case? I tell you why. Because we probably got the 2 places.
You got the different Airtable?
I think we have different. 1 second, let me check that.
This is a demo from yesterday.
That was a bad question, Mario.
Sorry about that. Now you have to answer.
I think you have 2 Airtables.
Yeah,
You may be
I
connected
think
to the
there's
wrong
2
Airtable.
Airtable.
and you have one
That is right.
prefixed with demo. We saw it in the listing when you bind the Airtable database.
I think so. Yeah, I think this connected to a different one.
Can you open the real one? Or is it
The thing is, it's gonna have to reconnect everything again.
No, open Airtable and go to the actual base.
Okay, close your eyes, everyone.
It's just Airtable name.
I think there's this one, and then there's the other one. But no, it's not this one.
No, we can see the whole space.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll fix that. But no, it's just 2 different Airtables.
So what would happen would be that the status is going to change in an instant. So it takes less than a couple of milliseconds for the Airtable data to be updated.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to highlight because not all alternatives are there. So we don't cache your data is yours. If it's in Airtable, it's in Airtable. If it's in Google Sheets, it's in the Google Sheets. But you own your data, not us. We don't have access to it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you interact directly with the Airtable's API.
Correct. So we're one of the most, so we developed one of the most sophisticated ways to use the Airtable API, so much so that the Airtable team is asking us for feedback about what their API should look like. And we're doing the same for Google Sheets.
Question. Can I have hybrid data sources? I mean, one on the Google Sheets and another on the Airtable. Or visible data sources.
Okay, you can have multiple data sources from Airtable, but you can eventually have with Google Sheets 2, which will be released in the next few months. So you will be able to have a mix of Google Sheets and Airtable.
Again, there's a difference between where we are now and where we want to be. right? But software users, if there are any in the room, will already know that every week or every 2 weeks we're launching new features that you ask us to launch. So it's very, very dynamic, the roadmap, and yeah. So we're right now logging that request, making sure that we account for it, and that's how it goes. You build the product with us.
I heard yesterday that there was something like 5 calls per second allowed for the API of Airtable. Is it something, a limitation? What if you have 10 users working on the project? Do you have limitation on the project?
I think it's more than 5 calls per second, right?
We have
I can jump in.
yeah.
Hello.
There's Mariam, our co-founder.
So there is a limitation from an Airtable API, but we actually have a solution in place which is essentially taking care of that, and we don't face the limitation on the application side.
But what would be the limit in this example of the number of users that would simultaneously check the table, add tasks,
No,
change
there's
tax
no
status?
limitation. There's limitation on the database number of records in the Airtable, which is a limitation from Airtable. And you have 50,000, and in enterprise package, I think 100,000 per row, per table, but that's the only limitation. On the front end, we do have a caching system and something that takes care of these users, essentially not having that limitation of 5 users accessing the API at the same time.
In other words, if this got too technical, in other words, we have users that have thousands, 10,000, 50,000. We just spoke to one a couple of weeks back, 50,000 users using the application at the same time. So not 10,000 active users at a single moment in time, but they do use the application daily. So Softr, although simple, is really powerful, and it will scale to thousands and thousands of users if that's a need for you.
Is on the road. Do you plan to support Maestro or Nocode regarding this limitation of duplicating objects?
So we started with Airtable. We're now releasing Google Sheets, and our plan is to support every relevant database that is out there for our users. So the answer to your question is yes, but there's more. So our vision, built by Marian there, is to connect to everything. It will take us maybe a few months to get there.
So now what I want to do is we've got a really cool app now. Actually, this is ready to go. In fact, the good news is you guys are getting a sneak peek of this app. It's not yet fully out of Softr. So you guys now all know that there is a template on Softr that you'll be able to get access to, which will immediately be able to put your team into, and you basically have a project management for your team. If any of you guys can use this actually once it's out, and you just had a full demo into it. But now what I want to do is, Mario, I really want this to be an app. I want this to be on mobile. Now I've used Google and Apple before, and I know it takes forever to get it onto there. So I'm going to try and do it here and see how long it takes.
Yeah,
just bear with me. Just bear with me, okay?
You may need some time, but
It's going to take a while.
yeah, it's gonna take a while.
Just bear with me, okay?
Just pay attention, because you need
Pay
to be able
attention
to
because there's quite
replicate
a
this
few
at home.
steps, okay? So
That's it.
you now have your application, which your team is using right at their fingertips. And they can communicate with each other in even more real time than, say, directly from desktop.
Is the design responsive?
Yes, entirely responsive.
Can they
That's my
actually
question.
actually try it? Or are
Yes,
you afraid that
let's do that. No, I don't think so. Sorry, question.
Yeah, about this app, because I'm really interested in having an app which is easy to upload photos, but in offline mode. I mean, I send people on the street, they take a lot of photos, maybe 10 for an action, then they move to another action, but for the current solution I have, they need to be connected so that the photos are uploaded, they can move to the next task. So
Yeah.
how do you manage that?
For it to be uploaded, I think you need to be live, right? So
Yeah,
it's going to have
sure.
to stay live.
Got it. Can you switch to another task and it will be uploaded in the background?
I'm going to say no because we don't
Not yet.
store that yet.
Not yet.
Yeah. So it's going to have to go straight into Airtable. For it to get to Airtable, it's going to need to be live. So.
So if I cannot take another photo, it's like a web page.
It needs to be connected to work. So the offline capability of mobile apps, Mariam, correct us if we're wrong, is not yet in this version. we might look into it if we start seeing that that's a common use case for customers. I actually like to talk to you a little bit about that offline, just to understand the use case.
Sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested in your use case as well. Okay, cool. So now what we'll do is we now have it on mobile, which is perfect. And that also means that once you do get access to the app, which I'll give you guys a chance to do so in a second, it means that you can actually download this. So you'll actually have an icon on your mobile, and your users can access it kind of through a shortcut.
But it's not through the App Store.
It's not through the App Store. So actually, like, it's kind of, to get technical, it's like a more PWA. So it's not actually a native app, but it's still operating exactly the same way. You're still getting an application. You're avoiding all the costs, all the time that's necessary in getting it through the App Store.
But maybe just to add one message, actually for most of the businesses, first if you are producing B2C types of apps, then typically Apple might not even approve those apps to go to the App Store. And for most of the businesses, if you are using Softr for a business use case, and for, let's say, for your external clients or drivers or whoever that is to have the app, you don't actually need them to be on the App Store. It just works for them, and that's like good enough, and they don't even need to be App Store. Actually, they don't want it to be discoverable.
Yeah, they will most likely not approve business apps.
Okay, perfect. So now let's go back to our context of a small team. We're a team of 10, and we have some managers, we have some employees, and we're kind of managing a pipeline of projects. Okay? So what we'll do now is we'll create kind of like a scenario that we are a team in between us. I will have a manager and an employee. So who wants to be a manager of our small organization? Any hands?
We did a volunteer.
One volunteer. Okay,
There's
so you're the manager.
Congratulations, you were promoted.
Congratulations.
Miriam will take care of your salary.
Can you, I mean, if you're all interested, you can also like kind of grab the QR code and see this on mobile yourselves. But if the manager of our new organization can go ahead and jump in. And we also need an employee. Can you hire an employee, manager?
Definitely.
Is he your real?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you also kind of jump in, and then I'll give you guys the credentials to jump in as both an employee and manager, and then we can see in real time how this is all engaging with each other, even though you're doing it on two separate devices, let's say. Okay.
The others, please don't touch the data, otherwise it's going to break.
So as a manager, if you could just log in with Rose as example, and then employee Michelle. And then I'll try and show you as well what's going on with the Airtable side. Perfect. So once you're in, we'll kind of show you. Oh man.
I feel like the assistant of the magician.
Okay. So now as a manager, what you want to do is you want to add a new project into this pipeline for our organization. So to do that, you should go right to the bottom and just add a project, and then we'll see it listed.
Very expensive one.
On all this. Yeah. So as you can see here, this is whilst we're waiting. You'll see here on the top, it says this is only visible to managers. So this is the piece on Softr where you can also work on, we talked about different user groups and different, we have the manager, we have the employee. And for us to allow that to happen, we're setting those roles on Airtable side. So let me show you what that looks like on Airtable side. So on Airtable side, we have this kind of tier, and we have this column with the tags of those roles. And those roles are, in our case, manager and employee. Now you might also have client as a third tag, and you can define that user group on Softr side, and then you can create a third login, which is where if a client logs in, they'll then go ahead and see different sets or different pieces of that same set of information, of that same set of data, for example. And to do that, again, I think this is a key piece. So we see those two tags here, and we might add a third tag. So again, when this template is ready, you guys can grab it straight away. You can go ahead and add to your data the client tag. And what you might want to do then is you might want to go into here, user groups, permissions, user groups, and add that user group. And you'll add that user group based on that tag. Okay, I won't go into too much detail because I know some of you are a bit more beginner level. So let's try and not like mix things up. But once you jump into here, it's very intuitive. You add that condition, you add that based on that tag. And then with that, you set that visibility. And that's why only right now you as a manager can see that log, but our employee cannot. And that's because we've done that through this tag. Perfect. So you added your project. Let's take a look at it.
Was an expensive one.
Oh my God, so he's added $1 million project. Now let's jump in, and you, as an employee, want to add your tasks that you've been affiliated, or that you want to add to this to get this crazy project complete. So at the bottom of this project, if you find that project, you'll be able to add a task to it to get that project done. So don't forget, guys, these are two different individuals from a team that are communicating with each other on a pipeline of projects in two different parts of the world. That's it. And all that data is being put back into Airtable because it's being added through which block? Exactly. And then it's going into a list block. And that's where we're seeing it. So, yeah.
So it's almost as if you know the word block, you can build an app.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll wait for our employee to add the task. So now, we'll go ahead and see what tasks are necessary to complete this $1 million project. So Michelle has been added because
It's very
you added.
nice picture.
Yes, exactly. You must have got some sun at that. And Michelle needs to do an awesome first task to get that done. And that is in real time getting pushed down to here. So if a third employee logs in and they also jump in to see what tasks are necessary, we already know that Michelle is getting started with something and they can add their own. And meanwhile, our manager is jumping in and they're looking at what tasks are being complete. So this is a fully internal tool where an entire team or entire organization is able to communicate with each other and work on this project. Now again, to use that context of say client portal, you might have a third category of clients, and your clients can also jump in and see the status of those projects too. And that's exactly where you can take advantage of the full functionality of Softr. Okay, perfect. And then you guys can go ahead and communicate with each other and chit chat. But I avoid doing that because I'm gonna have to deal with this table later. So don't worry about that. And that's the general gist. I just want to go a bit deeper on the groups as we have time, on the editing piece of Softr, and this is one step further of that full functionality. So we talked about the form block, and that's where you're adding information into Airtable. So with a form block, that's a great way of adding a new row into Airtable. You can't do that in any other way. With the list block, you have existing data. Now you as a manager might decide that actually, I want to reassign that task to somebody else because you've decided as a manager that somebody else is better at this task. For you to do that, you can edit information in that list block. We won't do it, but I'll show you how you can make that happen. Because this is quite an important piece for those of you that might be a bit more advanced and want to just get into that piece. To do that, remember guys, we've just set the user group. So we've now set user groups based on tags. Don't forget when you're setting up your Airtable, it's very important that you have that extra column with those tags, to which you want to set your conditions. Once we've done that, we can again set the permissions. And it's with this that we can give the permission to a certain, we've just assigned a group, we've decided that that group is allowed to edit, and then we've chosen the block that can be edited, chosen that list block that can be edited. And that's it, it's done. So now as a manager, you can jump in and edit the certain details of that block. And actually you can go to real life field level. In this case, you might want to change the name of the project, and you can do that through this. You then click save. So actually, it's a not so crazy project. Click save, and just like that, it updates on here, and then it will update also on here. I think. No, someone's on my crazy
No,
project.
that's not the right.
So that's it. There's a different Airtable that's connected.
Ah, you found it. Okay.
No, I need the.
Oh, you've changed it. Okay. So you've edited it. Perfect. And he did that from his mobile. So he did that from mobile as well. So you get that full functionality on mobile as well.
So, Ibrahim, just for the sake of time, so
Yeah.
we can get people's questions.
Yeah.
Anyway, just let.
Oh yeah.
let
Okay.
the listeners know that
No.
we-
Okay. That's perfect. So what we've done now is we've seen how we're adding blocks. We've seen the full functionality of Softr and where you can take it. We've used a real life context of using Softr. So this kind of internal tool, internal communication tool in a kind of project management context. And then we've looked at taking it one step further of limiting the certain user groups to see, edit, do, key blocks of Softr. And that is the form block to add new information, a list block to display that information, and a list details block to see more of that information and to connect those two sets of information that might be seen in two tables on Airtable. Link through a link record. So that's the general kind of idea that I think is necessary for you guys to get started with Softr. Obviously, there's integrations as well, native integrations, etc. And as we progress, we will hopefully have more data sources. But we will have more data sources. We'll have Google Sheets soon. So, any questions?
Yeah. First of all, I love Softr. I'm part of the Slack community, etc. So the roadmap is very active. But I still need to implement some kind of workflows where you don't edit things or read things or delete, but you click on a button and something happens, like a flag, a label, a webhook, something.
Change the status of something.
Yeah,
something
approve.
like that. Yeah.
Because I have
Approve,
this
reject,
workflow that is approval and asynchronous approvals.
So
I
do you want
I don't know how to.
do you want the good news or the bad news?
It's coming, I know.
It's coming. The bad news is we don't have it yet. The good news is it's coming. You're probably wondering when. It's coming soon.
And we have weekly sprints, so just to get a sense of soon is soon. It's not next week, but it's going to be
Is it backlog grooming or?
No,
it's going to be this
beyond that.
quarter, right? If I
It's
don't-
development. In
It's
development.
in development already. So
About
it's
a month.
What will you
and
exactly
we'll
do?
be there.
What action do you specifically want? What's the first action you'll send to you guys?
Approve that.
Approve it, okay.
Yeah, approve the work.
Approve,
that
reject.
we done.
By the way, you technically can already achieve that with the editing.
With code.
No, also with editing, right?
You can also do that with Zapier and Make.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. But editing gives me too many fields. for
Okay,
the-
okay, got you.
Okay.
But you can also restrict the field access, right? You can just let the user to edit only one field.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still
But
forms.
it's the information
Yes.
structure that
Yes,
is to verbose.
Okay. Just wanted, I think Miriam just wanted you to know that you can control not only who can edit, you can control what they can edit, and so that you don't have to fully show the form with all the things. You can show just one status. But I understand that visually it's not appealing.
Yeah, if I say rejection status on off, it's
Yeah,
not
of
like
course.
approve
A
or
button
reject.
instead of clicking the edit, open the pop-up. It makes total sense. We got you, and we're working on it.
The other niche case that I run into, but it's not about software, it's about Airtable. The thing is that you expose every data when you query anything from Airtable. So even if you see conference only, I can click the source and Airtable is sending everything, every field. So what I ended up doing is creating views in Airtable, so specialized tables to expose only what is needed.
Yep.
The full password, I don't know, credentials, let's go wild. So
Yeah,
that's only a heads up.
couple of comments there. We don't store passwords on Airtable, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But you got a point. If you're hackier, you can figure that out. But I'm certain that maybe Miriam and Ibrahim.
Well, I mean,
but we will be improving that.
It is actually work in progress.
It
So
is
there
actually
is
work in progress.
it's related to the global permissions of the application level editing and view permissions. So this is actually work in progress. Once we launch that, also in the next weeks, by the way, then your data by default will not be accessed by anyone. Only what you expose here, only that will access. Actually, right now also, if you do a conditional filtering on a list, it is a security it does hide all of the details that you are seeing in the list. You can't really access the other part. You can access the logged in user information, for example, because it's already there. So let's say with developer tools, if you try to access logged in user's name or email, it's already there, right? You're a logged in user, you have that information, that is accessible. But anything that gets filtered out, you shouldn't have access to that even now.
So it's kind of like what we looked at with the Kanban, where we had that entire list of tasks, but in this case, I'm only seeing 8 tasks.
There's another question here.
Yeah,
We'll make sure we cover everyone.
the list block. Are they limited when you have a table with a huge amount of rows? How does it work? Do you have paginations or loading mechanisms? Or,
Yeah, so there is different options as well.
You'll see the book.
a table, you can have pagination parameter. Like if it's actually on a table, if you're displaying the list through a table block, then
So we want 1 million records on screen. Any further questions, folks?
What's the timeline on adding other data sources or pulling from other REST APIs in Airtable?
Yeah, so it's the main one that we have right now is Google Sheets that we've been working on. That will be out in the next few weeks. And then beyond that, hopefully the speed at which we begin pushing in kind of other data sources will be a bit faster. But there's no kind of set timings or anything like that just yet.
Are you thinking about any particular data source?
No, I mean, I'm just thinking in general, if I really want to build applications that have lots of interactions, I might want to go for something that, I know you cache, so you're pretty efficient with how you use the read version of an Airtable API, then the write will still be somewhat constrained with the API calls per second. And maybe if I want to have like more of a, like proper SQL database that I want to somehow connect, that would be a cool thing.
Maybe a comment on that. Actually, this quarter we are going to work on an infrastructure, and probably the first one is going to be REST API as well as the next data source. And once we have this infrastructure in place, from next quarter on, it's almost going to be like every month 1-2 new data sources, so pretty easy and quick for us to add new ones. And yes, SQL, REST APIs, more SQL-like data sources are the next in the road.
Awesome.
So the vision was always, Karim is there, the vision is always to connect to anything, to be able to create your data on top of every data source that you commonly use.
Yeah.
Again, 2-year-old baby company, and there's some foundational work that needs to be done, but once that's done, even other people will be able to create their own connectors to data sources once we open up the API.
So we currently face a challenge at Airtable is letting their picture attachment URL expiring in 2 minutes. Is that a problem for you, or how did you solve
No, it will not be a problem for us. I think technically speaking, because we pull it in immediately, right, in real time, so we don't wait that 15 minutes anyway. So it can't expire by the time we pull it in real time.
We're working with Airtable as well, with their team to make sure it continues to work.
Yeah.
In the right way. Good question, though.
Yes, please. I would like to map the user groups in Airtable to the user groups in Softr. Is it possible?
So you're creating user groups on that table.
Yeah, because we can have a fine-grained permission system in
Okay.
Airtable, and I would like it to be reflected in Softr. Instead of copy pasting.
You'd have to recreate them
Create
first.
today, yeah.
Like Softr needs to know those groups.
So we can read them.
But our user system is different, right? So there are trade-offs in those decisions. So for example, you can have software with 10,000 users and only 1 user in Airtable, right? And so so this will allow you to expose your Airtable to more users without breaking your bank. But there comes with the trade-off that we're not relying on their permission structure to create your apps. But happy to discuss further the use case and the need to take on as feedback.
I'm curious, at the beginning I spoke to 2 of you who haven't used Softr much. If you have any questions like from like more of like the beginner side, like if there's anything that you still think is a barrier to what you might be using for, is there anything that you
For me, it was clear like how to demonstrate it, and I can use it like before.
Yeah.
So I think like I have the slides like the blogs and even like more ways to use it. So yeah.
One question, how do you handle the ERM if you connect Google Sheets, because Google Sheets does not provide a ID column, right? So you have to specify it somewhere.
Yeah, this is something we're working on. Like, there will be part of a setup for the Google Sheets where we'll like prompt you to do certain actions as you're setting up your Google Sheets, because also you'll need like, you can't have merged cells, for example, you'll need like a title column. Yeah, to make it more like a database than a spreadsheet.
But do you expect it to be more unstable or unstable? Like, because Google Sheets is very like you can edit everything, right? You can do a lot of actions that you can't do in Airtable because Airtable is a bit more controlled, right? So you expect more breakdowns when connecting to Google Sheets?
I mean, to be honest, it's gonna obviously if you mess up your Airtable, your Google Sheets, it's possible to do so. It can be changed, but the point is you can now use Google Sheets as a database. So if you can, reduce those complications and make it act as a database, then that's already quite advantageous. I mean, yeah, users. I think the thing is we also recognize that Airtable generally has more technical users versus Google Sheets. Google Sheets, everybody uses Google Sheets. So that's possible that less technical users might recognize, might break things, but the moment they realize that Google Sheets is a spreadsheet initiative and interacting as if it's a database, then we'll hopefully have a as well. We are going to be continuing to work in a way where we ensure that the setup journey of the Google Sheets implementation kind of gives you those steps necessary to turn it into the database, from a spreadsheet so that it can work in the right ways.
Our principle here is always simplicity for the end user always simplicity. We want anyone to be able to create something in the most simple way. So we'll continue to iterate our product towards that, so it doesn't become a product for technical people. It's a product for all of us. Now, with this said, I think we need to wrap up. We'd like to thank you all for being here. It was great having you here. Great questions. Thanks everyone. For those of you that are already Softr users, go ahead to our roadmap page and subscribe to the newsletter. Also, submit your feature requests there. We read every single one of them. Actually,
we actually do.
We take turns. One of us is slightly electrocuted when there's bad feedback. So we like working and there's feedback there. But jokes apart, we do read everything. We will be at our booth. You can meet our co-founder and CEO, Mario. Check us out. Thank you very much for joining.